Now today we're going to have a bit of a chat about decking over a concrete slab and the joys that come of it, so stay tuned. Hey guys, I'm Daryl and welcome to the channel. Now this week I've got a covered entrance on the house and it's a concrete slab and leads up to the front door. It's roughly 3 metres by 2.8 metres. Didn't want to put tiles down, it's a bit passé for me, so I figured I'd do a deck and we'll deck the stairs and then we'll have some platforms that go down to the street because it is quite a drop. It's been interesting. The joys of not putting tiles down is you get to find out all the little bumps and hollows on the concrete slab, and there's been a few. I'll just run through what I've done anyway. For joists, I've used 90 by 45 H3 treated pine. The H3 is suitable for an external use and the H4 is suitable for an external use where it comes in contact with the soil. So H4 for posts and H3 for most other things. Getting 90 by 45 millimetre H3 has been really interesting. I've had to run around numerous timber supplies. I could get 70 by 45, but I wanted the 90, and because this is used a lot in decking and the like, exceptionally hard to get with the timber shortages at the moment. However, I've just scraped through. It's been really interesting. I've had to travel like half an hour away from here to just go to different hardware shops to see what I could pick up, but I've got it all and we're okay. With regards to this, I looked at how to bolt it down to the slab because you don't want the deck moving, and to be honest, with the weight of it, it probably wouldn't, but you really do need a mechanical fix for it. Now there's a few different ways you can use to bolt these joists down to your concrete slab. You can use a piece of angle off the side and bolt into that and drill into the joist. For me, I mark the centre line on the joist and that's where I'll be screwing the deck fittings down, and I've offset the bolts to each side, and on a 3 metre length I think I've put in 4 bolts. For those I'm using these. They're an anchor screw. They're a self-tapping bolt. They're 6 millimetre by 75, so I've got probably 40 into the concrete. I don't think you need any thicker than a 6 millimetre. At the end of the day, all it's doing is positioning everything. So what I've done is I've recessed the heads in with an 18 millimetre wood bit, then drilled down through the joist into the concrete with a 6 millimetre masonry bit. And that's been interesting in itself because this is a house slab. It's got a reasonable amount of aggregate in it, and you'll be drilling down fine, and then you'll hit a piece of this aggregate and you'll have to drill through that. When you get through it, it pops up with the aggregate waste. It's quite interesting, but anyway, it's been a bit of a chore to bolt these down. Now when you're putting these joists down, even though this is undercover, you want water to be able to run away if you hose the area or it does get wet or the like. To aid with that, the slab has got fall for runoff. I've just used a 5 millimetre plastic spacer between the joist and the concrete slab, and that'll allow any moisture that gets under there or water to run off. The good thing about using these two is that they come in all different thicknesses, so you can get a 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. What I have had to do in some places to get the deck level is to mix up some, because the slab's not, of course the slab's not flat. I've had to run a straight edge over it all, and where there's some high points, reduce the packing thickness. But that's allowed me to get the deck flat very simply. Once I've got all these joists bolted down and levelled off, I then wanted to waterproof over the top of them. And twofold with regards to that, it's not a bad idea to have a membrane under your decking timbers so the joists don't get wet and it just rots away. And because this is treated timber, it still will rot over the years. Because I've put a hole into the actual top of the joist to recess my mechanical fix into the slab, I've actually got like a bucket that will fill up with water, and I didn't want that happening. So I've bought some membrane that's suitable for decking joists, and I've been able to buy something that's suitable for a 90mm joist, and what that also has are these little hats on the side that when you nail them down they actually fold over, and that stops the water coming over the edge and then creeping back up, kind of like an ant cap, I suppose, where the sides come down and the ants, whilst they can come up and around, they can't go down and then back up. That's not a bad thing, and not too expensive. I think it was about 25 bucks a roll, and I needed 50 bucks worth to do all this. Now once I've got all the joists down and waterproofed and flattened and everything like that, we can put some decking down. For decking, I've used a spotted gum. In this area, because of the fire rating, I've got to have a hardwood, and whilst I can have a treated pine, joists and bearers and the like, they have to be covered by a hardwood timber. So my choices are jarrah, merbau and spotted gum that I can get easily locally. The jarrah and the merbau were just too red for our house and just wouldn't go. The spotted gum is a really nice colour, and I think it fits in well with the area and the gum trees that we have here. Now with supplies of this, I've been a little bit lucky. When you go to the hardware shop and you see the racks, they're just empty. They're just getting emptied really quick, but most people are buying the jarrah or the merbau. The spotted gum, they look as though they've had some deliveries, and I've actually had to cut through the strapping to get to it. The good thing about going to the hardware shop and just buying a bulk lot is that I can actually sort through it and get the colourings and try and get stuff that's reasonably straight, but yeah, that's that's not as easy as what you think. So I've done okay. I've probably got half the decking here. I've got another couple of shops locally I can go to and sort through their decking to get the other bits that I want. I probably need about 33 3-metre lengths all up, and I've probably got about nearly 20 at this point. Now laying this is fairly slow going. I could have got a 136 wide board, but I didn't want the cupping that comes with those, and even when you put in 3 screws across them, they are a little bit susceptible for cupping, which they start to go up at the edges. So I think the narrower board actually suits the look that we're trying to get a little bit better too. So narrow board it is, and laying more of them. Now apart from that, the difficulty I've had on one slide is the slab isn't square, which when you start to trim these things down square, it's difficult. Normally with this sort of thing too, you'd leave an overhang and you'd just run a saw down it when you were finished them. On one side I can do that, on the other side I can't, because I don't have enough room to actually get the saw in. So I actually have to trim those as I lay them, and with that side not being square, I've got to get my angles right as I run up. The other issue is at the sides of the slab, normally you'd put a board on edge. At the front where the stairs are, I've put a 136 wide board there, because as I want to do the tops of the stairs, by the time I put in a joist and then the timber on top, the 136 will cover both the joist and the decking material and the concrete stair underneath. So that's why I'm doing the sides in the 136. On one side that's the crooked side, I've had to rip down a 86mm to about a 70, and the reason I've had to do that is because it's where the driveway is and nothing hangs out past that rendered piece. So trying to run back and be similar to the stone column has meant that I've actually had to put the side piece, the trim piece of the decking on top of the concrete slab. So it's working out okay, it's just really slow going. Now with laying of the joists, I wanted the fixes to all line up, and as I will be doing the stairs, there'll be a centre mark on the stairs of screws. So I've lined up the middle joist with the middle of the stairs, and that means there should be one continuous line of sight of screws all the way up to the front door, and then just laid them out in 450 centres. That has meant that I've had to, at the edges, put in another joist that's not at a 450 centre, but that's just how it is. They just fall where they fall. Now with laying of these decking boards, I'm just doing them one by one. I'm not using one of the multiple board systems, because I don't have that much to do. I am putting a 5mm gap between the boards, and I'm just using a 5mm packer to get my gaps across the deck. Where the decking isn't square, I'm pulling it in with a clamp, and that's getting it square for me. With affixing the boards to the joists, I'm using a Spax 5mm by 50mm stainless steel decking screw. They've got a Torx head and a really tiny head on them. And when you drill them in, Spax have a drill and a fitting that drills and recesses the head in, so you can then just drive these in with your driver. Really happy with these. You go through heaps of them. These things aren't the cheapest things in the world, but being stainless steel and the like, they should last the life of the decking. Now that's taken 2 full days to lay the decking boards on this. It is a slow, ongoing process when you're doing it, if you're trying to do it perfectly. It's turned out superb. I'm so happy with it. I did have an issue where one side of the area was 5mm longer than the other, and all I've done there is every so often I'd add a 1mm spacer to the 5mm spacers that I was adding between the decking boards, and by doing that, by the time we've got to the front door, we were perfectly square. I had a bit of luck also. When we finished at the front door, I had a full width decking board that just slotted in there with perfect spacing. So very happy with that. My lines of sight with my fixings in the decking is absolutely perfect. My grandfather would be very, very chuffed with me if he was still around. He'd point out things like that if you did it wrong. So that's where I get the perfectionist thing from. So now all I've got to do is I've got to give it an all over sand, just a light fine sand, just to get rid of all the pencil marks and any defects. I have to go over it with a tannin remover to remove any tannins, hopefully, that will leach out over a period, and then we can just go over it with a water-based decking product in a natural, so we can let the colours of the deck shine through. So that's it for today. A little bit different than normal, but I looked on YouTube and I found it very hard to get some local knowledge about doing this sort of thing. If it helps anyone, glad I could help. But that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.